You are not the blade that kills. You are only the man who keeps accounts for the blade. You stand at the mouth of a burned village, bamboo slips in one hand, brush in the other. The general sits above you on horseback. Ash gathers around the hooves, and in the wind there are husks of grain that never finished burning. He asks, how much grain? You write, 320 hew of millet. He asks again, how many horses? You write, 27 horses, 44 cattle. At last, he lowers his eyes to the crowd kneeling on the ground. How many living mouths? Your brush stops, because a moment ago they still had names. The old man at the gate was Chen, the one who could mend a plough. The woman holding a child lost her husband at the south gate last night. The boy keeps staring at you because he understands your language. But the general asks for no names. He asks only for living mouths. So you lower your head and write, 46 adult males, 63 women, 32 children. From this moment on, they are no longer people, they are numbers. When you first follow the general south, you think you are only an interpreter. You speak the tongue of the riders and the speech of the Han villages. You pass down orders, translate pleas and ask directions for the general. Back then, you still think you are different from the men with blades. They break doors, you do not enter. They seize grain, you do not steal. They drag people away, you do not look. You only stand aside and turn one voice into another. But soon you understand. In an age of disorder, a man who never lifts a blade can still make the blade fall. When you say there is grain here, a family cellar is pried open. When you say he is a blacksmith, a man is bound and taken away. When you say she hides silver at home, a door is kicked to pieces. You thought you were only translating. But every time you open your mouth, someone falls. When the first village burns, you vomit. Not because it is the first time you have seen the dead, but because the fire has such order. Ancestral hall first, then granary, then homes, forcing the living to run out by themselves. The cavalry does not hurry. They ring the village gate as if they have put a lid on a pot. People rush from the houses, outside the doors, blades are waiting. Some hold rice sacks, some hold children, and some hold nothing at all, kneeling in ash and promising to guide, to surrender grain to become beasts of burden. The general does not listen. He only raises his hand. The soldiers split into 3 groups. Honor group pries open rice jars, rakes through stove ash, and digs coins from wall cracks. One group searches the men. Anyone with calluses on his hands and strength in his shoulders is roped into the line. The 3rd group enters the inner rooms. You stand at the door and hear women crying behind the wall. It is not a scream. It is the muffled sound that leaks from a throat after a mouth has been covered. You do not go in, but you know what happens there. Soon the women are pushed one by one into the courtyard. Their hair is loose, shoes missing, sleeves torn, faces covered with ash. They keep their heads lowered, afraid to look at the soldiers or at one another. An old woman throws herself forward and clings to the leg of a young wife, crying that this is her daughter-in-law, already with child. The officer thinks she is too loud and strikes her face with the back of his blade. When she falls, you hear teeth strike stone steps. The general asks you, those who can walk, record them. Those who cannot, leave them. You lower your head and write, women 21, old and weak, abandoned. You write slowly because you know the word abandoned is lighter than killed, so light it may never appear in a history book. At the 2nd village, you no longer vomit. At the 3rd, you begin to know which courtyards hide grain, which wells may cover coins, and which kind of crying means someone is still inside. By the 5th village, you have already prepared 3 slips in advance, one for grain, one for livestock, one for people. The most frightening change in the army is not killing. It is that after killing, everyone begins to think it is normal. At dusk, soldiers sit around fires dividing meat, wine, and stolen cloth. Captives are driven into wooden pens like livestock that cannot call out. You hear the careless word they use for the prisoners, as if changing a name could make people stop being people. Your stomach drops. You know what they are laughing at. You also know you must not show disgust. In this army, a soft heart is not kindness. It is danger. Speak for a captive, and they will ask whether you are one of them. Omit 1 sack of grain, and they will ask whether you hid it. Let your eyes linger too long on a woman, and someone will clap your shoulder and joke that she can be awarded to you. You lower your head. You keep writing. Later, you learn new columns. Grain is counted by hoe, animals by head, weapons by piece. Women, too, are recorded by use. Those who can be ransomed go into a separate column. Fine cloth, delicate fingers, speech without a local accent, usually a wealthy household or a clan woman. Her family may pay to get her back. Those who can weave are sent to the rear camp. Needlework, washing, cooking. They are marked as camp labor. The young and beautiful do not enter the main register. They enter the general's and officer's private book. That book is tied with a red cord and kept at the innermost edge of your desk. Every time it opens, the soldiers beside you smile. You hate that smile. It is not the smile of men looking at people. It is the smile for a good horse, a good blade, a jar of wine. A woman kneels before you and tries to smear her face even blacker with ash. She deliberately tangles her hair, coughs, and says she is sick. You can tell she is pretending. So can the soldier beside you. He reaches to wipe the ash from her face. She suddenly bites his hand. He screams, then slams her to the ground. His blade is already half drawn. For that instant, every woman in the courtyard stops crying. They look at you, because the brush in your hand can decide whether she is ransomable, camp labor, or guilty of defying military orders. You know the safest way to write. If you write defiance, she will not live until nightfall. If you write ransomable, she will be sent to a private tent. If you write camp labor, she may live a few more days in the rear camp. You dip the brush in ink and write 2 words, camp labor. When the woman is dragged away, she looks at you once. There is no gratitude in her eyes, only hatred. And suddenly you understand. Sometimes survival is not mercy. It is only another form of suffering. The general likes you, not because you are loyal, but because you are useful. You can read, keep accounts, hear accents, and remember faces. In one glance you can tell who is lying, who has a cellar, who was a village clerk, and who might bring ransom. The general says a blade can open a door, but a ledger can open a human heart. He begins to seat you beside the tent entrance. After each raid, soldiers pass your table first. Grain must be reported. Cattle and horses must be reported. Captives must be reported. You hold a brush, yet it feels like an invisible whip. A man kneels before you and says he is not wealthy, only a warehouse watchman. You look at his hands. Old ink sits in the cracks between his fingers. Not a farmer, an accountant. You raise your eyes, and the soldiers drag him away. Sameni pushes a child to your feet and begs you to mark him as an orphan, not as an adult male. You see the child's shoulders shaking. You also see the officer watching you. So you write, 1 boy, fit for labor. The woman lunges forward and is kicked aside by a soldier. You do not look up. You are afraid that if you do, you will no longer be able to write. You rise quickly from interpreter to keeper of the captive register to trusted man under the general's tent. You have your own horse, your own short blade, your own fur coat. On winter nights others turn blue with cold while you sit by the fire drinking hot wine. Soldiers lower their heads to you because the roll in your hand decides how much reward they receive, and whether they have stolen from the share. You begin to understand the taste of power. It does not taste like gold. It does not taste like wine. It is the instant, when someone else does not dare meet your eyes. What truly turns you into one of them is not the first time you stay silent. It is the first time you speak first. That day a soldier drags 3 women from a woodshed, 1 older, 2 younger. The older one kneels and says both girls are her daughters. She will stay herself if only they are released. The soldiers laugh. Someone says the old one can cook, and the young ones have their own uses. You hear it, and your fingers tighten until the edge of the bamboo slip bites into your palm. The general is watching you. He is waiting for you to handle it. You know this is a test. If you are soft, you do not belong at the tent gate. If you are hard, you will keep rising. You ask the older woman, "Where is your husband?" "Dead," she says. "Is there grain at home? Number any kin who can pay ransom?" She shakes her head and weeps. You nod, then tell the soldiers, "Send the old one to the cooking camp." The 2 young ones go into the private book, awaiting the general's decision. The moment the words leave your mouth, you hear one daughter scream. She does not cry for help. She cries for her mother. The sound pins you in place, but you do not change the order. The general smiles. For the first time, he hands you his own wineskin. You take it and drink. The liquor is harsh, burning from your throat into your stomach. Suddenly you know that from now on, you can never say you were only the man who kept accounts. Some accounts were written by your own will. Night is the hardest time. By day, raids of firelight, hoofbeats, and commands, like one enormous confusion. At night, when the camp quiets, the truly frightening sounds come out. Soft crying behind the wooden pens, a blade being sharpened beside the grain carts, a whisper behind a tent promising ransom, hidden silver directions to the next village. The soldiers drink and begin dividing the day's rewards. Who took a bronze mirror, who seized silk, who led away 2 cattle, who received a woman who can cook. They speak of these things in an ordinary tone, as if discussing whether tonight's meat is salty. You sit by the fire with 3 books open before you. One is for the general, one is for the military judge. The third is a private account, no outsider may see. In that book there are no common people, only ransomable, usable, rewardable, sellable. Sometimes you wonder whether reading those words aloud one by one would make someone wake up. But no one wakes up. Not the soldiers, not the general, not you. You have begun to know which people are valuable, which are troublesome, and which should never be written too clearly. Your brush grows steadier and steadier, steady enough to frighten you. On the 7th march south, the city does not fall at once. The siege lasts 17 days, and the army's grain runs low. Horse feed is cut in half first. Then the men's rations are cut as well. Soldiers grow restless, officers quarrel, and the general's eyes redden day by day. On the 18th night, the city gate opens. It is not broken by force. Someone inside opens it willingly. A gate clerk kneels beneath the gate with his whole family and offers the city, asking only to be spared. The general smiles. He tells you to record the man's name and says the man has merit. You record it. At dawn, the general enters the city. His first act is to bind the gate clerk and his family in the marketplace. You freeze. The general says, "A man who can sell a city once can sell it twice." The clerk looks at you as if you are the only person who can understand him. He shouts that he had merit, that he offered the city, that he asked for his life. Everyone looks at you. The general looks at you too. You know that if you say there was an agreement, the general will remember you. So you roll up the bamboo slips and step back. You do not translate. That day, you finally understand. You were not forced into this. You walked here step by step. Stop it, Scribe. The history book will only write, in such a year and month, such an army broke such a city, and killed and plundered many. 4 words, killed and plundered many. How clean. No blood by the well. No crying in the empty granary. No child clutching your boot and saying he can feed horses, begging not to be handed over. No woman blackening her face just to avoid being seen. No brush in your hand. No brush that can change the manner of a person's death by one mistaken word. You think there is no soft place left in you until you see the boy. He is dragged from a half-burned academy. Everyone else runs out, but he refuses to let go of a bundle of bamboo slips. The soldiers think gold is hidden inside. They snatch it open and find only books. A soldier curses and is about to push him into the captive line. The boy suddenly says in the rider's tongue, "I can keep accounts." You lift your head. His speech is clumsy but understandable. You ask who taught him. He says his father once traded with northern caravans. You look at him and see yourself 10 years ago. 2 languages, writing, arithmetic, and the belief that these skills can save a life. You know his ending. If marked as an ordinary captive, he will be distributed away. If marked as a laboring male, he will haul stone, dig trenches, repair camp, and not survive a winter. If marked as a military clerk, he will live, but become you. For the first time, you lie in the register. You write, sickly, unfit for labor, held for later disposition. At night, you let him crawl out from under the grain cart, give him a hard cake, and tell him to run south. Not to look back, not to say he can read, and never again learn any skill an army can use. He asks why you saved him. You want to say because I was once you, but you do not. You only say, go. Just as he is about to crawl away, You hear a faint breath behind the grain cart. You lift a torn mat and see the woman you marked as camp labor earlier that day. Her face is swollen, her sleeve torn, and in her arms she holds half a cake dug from stove ash. She does not beg, she only looks at you, as if she already knows you will not save her a second time. The boy stands in front of her and says she helped him hide. You look at the woman. At last, you recognize the gaze. It is not the look of someone begging to live. It is the look of someone who has seen through you and is waiting for you to act like a person one last time. You open the register. The boy can be changed to sickly. But what about the woman? Your brush stops for a long time. Finally, you write. One camp labor woman died of illness in the night. It is the first time you steal a living person from the ledger. It is also the last. The next day, when captives are counted, 2 are missing. The officer discovers it. He carries the register into the tent with a smile and says, "Sir, your accounts are wrong." The tent is very quiet. The general sits on a tiger skin, lifting the lamp wick with the tip of his blade. He does not look at the officer. He looks at you. Suddenly, you realize that all these years you have counted so many things for him: grain, horses, houses, lives, cries. Every account was clear. Only one account you forgot. A trusted man can also be counted. The general asks, "Who is missing?" You say, "One sickly captive and 1 camp labor woman. Perhaps they died on the road." The officer's smile deepens, he says, "But the night watch saw it, so released them." You hear the wind outside the tent. You remember the first march south, when you stood at the village gate and your brush trembled. You remember the clerk killed after offering the city. You remember the 2 daughters you wrote into the private book. You remember the sentence you did not translate. Retribution, it turns out, does not fall from heaven. It is a bamboo slip filled by your own hand until it finally reaches your name. The general stands. He does not rage, and that is what makes it most frightening. He says, "You have followed me this long. You know military law. You kneel. You want to beg for mercy, but suddenly you do not know which language to use. The rider's tongue, hand speech, or the language of the ledger, the one without people in it. You open your mouth. No sound comes out. The general throws the roll of names in front of you. Write it yourself. You stare at the blank final line. The lamplight shakes. Outside the tent, someone leads a horse, someone sharpens a blade, someone laughs while dividing tonight's wine. You pick up the brush. This time, you finally know how it feels when a living person is written into a number. You write your own name. Then, after it, you write "Release 2 captives in secret." Crime, death. When the brush tip falls, you suddenly smile, because you think that many years from now, perhaps a historian will write of this year. He will say northern troops marched south. Commanderies lay broken, and the people were scattered. He will not write you. He will not write the boy who escaped. He will not write the woman who blackened her face and hid a cake in her arms. He will not write that night at the burned village gate, when a keeper of accounts finally understood that he had never merely kept records. He had been helping the blade find its road, and the blade never remembers who wrote for it. It only knows who comes next.